Hi there. Some time ago, I had to make this big presentation at my office to senior leadership requesting for a budget increase. I spent a lot of time preparing my deck. I had all the graphs beautifully laid out, bullet points that I wordsmithed over and over again until they rhymed and everything was set. As I started the presentation, somebody pointed out that I mixed up my Q3 and Q4 numbers, and that threw me off. While I was still recovering from that, my laptop crashed during the presentation. That was a moment of panic. I had to present without slides, using raw data and basically improvise. But guess what? In the end, I got my budget increase. Life is a lot like this presentation experience that I had. Unpredictable, messy, embarrassing at times, and yet somehow real. There is a moment in any project and in life in general where you feel, is this really how it's supposed to be? That moment of panic and doubt is where authentic growth happens, where the magic lives, if you are brave enough to continue. Hi, I'm Sankar, corporate leader by day and contemplative observer by nature. For the longest time, I've been fascinated by how we grow, what makes us tick, and what connects us. Through this channel, I endeavor to bring to life my lifelong journey of reflection. I bring perspectives shaped by my diverse experiences, decades of introspection, and decades of consuming books, podcasts, and courses on self-development. I hope these videos offer thoughts for you to see your own path a little differently, or give you a moment to pause and reflect, or just connect you with ideas that matter. Today, I want to talk about this topic which we all think about, but we seldom talk about it, which is this beautiful mess we call life. If your life is in this array, if you feel that your life is in this array right now, or if you've felt like this in the past, stay with me. I'm not here to give you a neat 10-point step to clean it all up, but rather, let's deep dive and discuss what this mess is all about and how to navigate it. In the next 10 minutes or so, we will look at 3 aspects of life's messiness. First, we'll look at why this disorder is not just common but inevitable in our lives and sometimes necessary. Second, we look at relationships. Why, in spite of all of our efforts, sometimes relationships get untidy, how they evolve over time in unpredictable ways, and how sometimes they even end without proper closure. And third, we will talk about how to find peace within this disorder and mess, not by eliminating the mess, but changing our relationship towards it. This isn't about fixing our lives, it's about developing a new relationship with it. The inevitable nature of mess, life's inherent disorder. Remember the concept of entropy that we learned in school, where the natural disorder in the universe increases over time? Turns out it applies not just to molecules, but to life as well. We make plans, we set goals, we create our systems, but life has its own agenda. The promotion or the new job that we were looking for doesn't come through. Our health that we took for granted suddenly needs our attention. The friendship that we thought will last forever drifts away. As John Lennon famously put it, life is what happens to you when you're making other plans. And these other plans that we make with such certainty without realizing that it is an inherently chaotic universe. Now let's talk about the myth of other people's perfect lives. When we scroll through Facebook and Instagram, we see lives that are perfectly aligned. Marriages without conflicts, careers without setbacks, homes without dirty dishes in the sink. But behind every perfectly framed photo is a carefully cropped out mess. The argument that took place just 5 minutes before, the set of rejected applications that preceded the job announcement, the pile of laundry sitting just outside the frame. Remember that Theodore Roosevelt quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy." When we compare our behind the scenes with other people's highlight reels, we are setting ourselves up for disconnection from our own reality. What would happen if we revealed our disasters behind our perfect moments? Not as complaints, but as authentic connection points. Because that's where true intimacy lives, not in our polished presentations, but in our shared humanity. The beauty in breaking and rising stronger. In Japan, there is an art form called kintsugi, the practice of repairing broken pottery where Instead of hiding the breaks, they highlight them in gold, celebrating the history of the object rather than disguising it. What if we viewed our own breaks and messes in the same way? Not as flaws to be hidden, but as unique contours of our experiences that make us who we are. Because sometimes it is only through our breaks that we discover what we are made of. I strongly believe that it is only those who have seen the depths and the deepest of valleys who are capable of soaring the skies and scaling the highest mountains. There is something about facing genuine hardship that expands our capacity for joy, for empathy, for resilience. Those who have not faced any adversities remain untested. They may have potential, but it is those who have weathered the storms who know their true strength. Now, in this next section, let's talk about the messy middle of relationships, the illusion of closure and learning to let go. We are taught to expect neat endings. Movies wrap up the storylines in the final minutes. Books have epilogues. But in real life, relationships rarely end with such clarity. Sometimes people leave without explanation. Sometimes we don't get to say things that we needed to say. Some questions remain unanswered for years or forever. Albert Einstein wisely noted, "We cannot solve the problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them." Sometimes letting go is not about getting answers, but it's about releasing the questions themselves. The friend who gradually disappeared from your life, that parent who never acknowledged their mistakes. Learning to live with these unresolved stories is one of life's most difficult but necessary skill. But how do we actually let go of these incomplete narratives? It starts first with recognizing that closure isn't something that others give us, it's something we give ourselves. We need to accept that some questions will remain unanswered, and that's okay. It continues with honoring the relationship for what it meant to you rather than expecting it to be neatly packaged. It requires ultimately for us to make a choice to stop anchoring our present to an unresolvable past. Oprah Winfrey once said, "Forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been something different." Sometimes letting go isn't so much a dramatic release, but rather a quiet decision to stop reaching for what isn't there and turn toward what is. The dance of intimacy and independence. Relationships aren't static monuments, they're living and breathing ecosystems that require constant navigation. There is no perfect balance between togetherness and autonomy that once achieved can be maintained forever. One day you might feel perfectly aligned with your partner, and on another day, like you're speaking different languages. Your best friend might be your lifeline during one phase of your life, but naturally drift into a different orbit in another phase. Sometimes our relationships need us to be individuals pursuing our own goals, and at other times they need us to merge as a unified front against the world. The art lies in knowing when to be which and knowing that we often will get it wrong. The mess comes from reconciling these opposing forces, not just once but continuously as both people evolve. Now let's talk about the fragility of connection. Human relationships are simultaneously both incredibly strong and achingly fragile. A single conversation can alter the trajectory of a relationship forever. A moment of vulnerability rebuff can close a door that may never get reopened. And yet, despite this fragility, or perhaps because of it, we continue to reach out to each other across the void of our own experiences. As Carl Jung observed, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is a reaction, both are transformed. The very messiness of relationships, the reconciliations, the misunderstandings, the reconciliations, the moments of disconnect and connect, this is what gives them their depth. Now let's switch gears and talk about finding peace in this chaos. First, the mirage of someday perfect. Many of us operate under the illusion that we are working towards a future state where somehow everything will click in place. When I get that job, when I find that person, when the kids grow older and I become financially independent, that's when life will make sense. That's when I'll be happy. But as Dalai Lama wisely said, there are only 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday and the other is called tomorrow. The messy nature of life isn't a temporary phase on the way to some perfect state. It is the constant state of being human. The sooner we recognize this, the sooner we can stop postponing our peace until some imagined future. Wasted potential as redirection. We often agonize over paths not taken, opportunities missed, or potential wasted. That career that we didn't pursue, that risk that we didn't take, that business idea we abandoned when things got complicated. But what if these weren't failures as much as redirections? What if the energy we spend lamenting wasted potential could be channelized into discovering possibilities that we couldn't have imagined before? As Steve Jobs said in his famous Stanford commencement speech, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. That failure that seemed so devastating at the time might actually be the detour that leads you to your most authentic path. Think of a river meeting a boulder. The water doesn't stop flowing, it simply finds a new path with more interesting twists and turns than it was on the straight path before. As Walt Disney once said after being fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination, the way to get started is to stop talking and start doing. Think of how many successful entrepreneurs started multiple failed businesses before they tasted success, or how many writers have faced dozens of rejections before getting their breakthrough. Those weren't wasted years, they were necessary steps in a longer journey. Rolling with life's punches while maintaining your spirit. There's a fascinating story about butterflies. If you help one out of its cocoon thinking that you're being kind, you're actually harming it. The struggle to emerge from the cocoon is precisely what strengthens the wings for it to fly. Some messes aren't meant to be cleaned up quickly. Some challenges aren't meant to be solved immediately. The process of working through difficulty, what psychologists call productive struggle, is where true growth happens. As Ernest Hemingway put it, the world breaks everyone, and several are stronger at the place, and afterward, many are stronger at the broken places. The question isn't about avoiding breaking, it's about how to use it to become stronger. Life will throw punches at you, that's guaranteed. Sometimes you can dodge them, rolling with them to minimize their impact, but at other times, you will have to take them head on. You will get knocked down, you will taste blood. And in those moments, the real test isn't avoiding the pain, but in how you respond to it, by licking your wounds, finding your footing, and standing up again. But how do you maintain your spirit and integrity through these blows without resorting to harmful crutches like excessive alcohol, compulsive behavior, or emotional numbing? It starts with radical honesty, acknowledging the pain without dramatizing it. It continues with developing a support system that allows you to be vulnerable without being judgmental. And critically, it requires you to develop healthy routines to process your emotions, be it with movement, creative expression, mindfulness practice, or meaningful connection with others. The strongest people that I know aren't those that have avoided life's messes. They are those who have developed the capacity to feel deeply, process honestly, and keep moving forward with their core values and spirit intact. So we are back in the boardroom. That perfect presentation was a disaster, but we got what we came for. Something real emerged out of the chaos. Professional life and life in general is messy, gloriously, frustratingly, beautifully messy. While I cannot offer you a formula to avoid the mess, I can offer you this. It is in navigating the mess that we really discover what we are capable of. The human experience has always been one of learning, adapting through imperfections, and growing through imperfection. Maybe the most human thing to do is to stop pretending that we have it all figured out, to admit that we are making it up as we go along, just like everybody else. When life knocks you down, and it will at times, getting up isn't the bare minimum, it's the victory. And how you get up matters. With your spirit bruised but not broken, with your integrity intact, and with compassion to yourself and others who are dealing with their own messes. Nelson Mandela once said, "Do not judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I have fallen down and gotten back up again." Our messiest moments are often our most illuminating teachers. So here's to your mess, my mess, all of it. Again, I'm Sankar. If this video resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Until next time, remember that it's not about being perfect, it's about being real. And make sure you be kind to yourself in the midst of your beautiful mess. Bye bye.